John Mara looks like he's aged 1 year for each of the Giants' 10 losses this season. "We've had an embarrassing season," he said Monday. "I think most people who know me know how painful that is to me and know how committed I am in trying to put a winning team back on the field. I know our fans are suffering, but I'm suffering more. I guarantee it." After firing GM Jerry Reese on Monday morning at 10:30 and then firing coach Ben McAdoo, it's up to Mara to rebuild the organization quickly. He has enlisted former Giants GM Ernie Accorsi to assist him in the GM process. Accorsi has been a GM consultant for several teams the last few years, and Mara holds him in high regard and will lean on him. The new GM then will have input into the hiring of the new coach, but Mara and Steve Tisch will have final say. The roster will have to be fixed with smart free agent signings and the highest and most important draft decision since they acquired Eli Manning on draft day in 2004 for Phillip Rivers and a bunch of draft picks. The Giants were 115 last year and made the playoffs. They are 210 this year, just fired their coach in season for the first time since 1976, and if they finish 214 it will be their worst record since 1966. They are looking for a new coach and new GM in the same year for the first time since 1979, when George Young was the compromise general manager choice brokered by Pete Rozelle to end a dispute between Wellington and Tim Mara. Young hired Ray Perkins, who hired Bill Parcells. It brought the Giants out of the dark ages. Beginning with their first championship in 1986, only the Patriots have won more than Big Blue's 4 Super Bowls in the last 31 years. Was last season an aberration? Is this season an aberration? How should Mara fix this mess? Alex Brandon Knapp. Here's the Daily News 10-point plan. 1. Hire Dave Gettleman as GM. Gettleman, 66, was in the middle of a strong run as Panthers GM before he was abruptly fired in July. Sources say he is interested in the Giants job. When Accorsi was Giants GM, he hired Gettleman in 1998 as an assistant in pro personnel, then promoted him to pro personnel director. He was instrumental in the signings of Plaxico Burress and Antonio Pierce. Gettleman stayed until 2012 and was beloved in the Giants organization and by Mara. Accorsi recommended him to Carolina's Jerry Richardson, who hired him as GM in 2013, and he helped put together the Panthers team that was 151 in 2015 but lost to the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Interestingly, Accorsi recommended Jerry Reese over Gettleman when he retired as Giants GM after the 2006 season, and Reese did help build 2 Super Bowl champions. Sources say Mara will not be inclined to take a chance on a new pond-comer like Green Bay's Elliott Wolf, the son of Hall of Famer Ron Wolf. He wants an experienced executive who can deal with what is now considered an explosive situation. Gettleman has the toughness and experience to handle New York. What about Chris Mara? John's younger brother is an excellent personnel guy and is more than qualified. His last name precludes him from getting the job. How could John ever fire him like he just did with Reese? I also don't think the Tisch family would go for Chris as GM, anyway. Gettleman was fired by Richardson on July 17, on the eve of training camp. The timing and circumstances were bizarre. Apparently, he upset folks in Carolina when he ran off Panthers legends Steve Smith and Angelo Williams and lifted the franchise tag from Josh Norman, and there was concern that upcoming negotiations with Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis could get nasty. Initially, I thought Falcons assistant GM Scott Pioli would be high on the Giants list and would be an excellent hire, but that is not going to happen. I think Gettleman is the guy. Once a Giant, always a Giant too. Hire Josh McDaniels as coach. He lasted only 28 games, same as McAdoo, in his first shot in Denver. He was just a kid in 2009 when he got that job after 8 years on Bill Belichick's staff in New England and bombed. But he returned to finishing school in New England, and Tom Brady swears by him as his offensive coordinator. He's worked for Belichick on all 5 Super Bowl title teams. McDaniels, just like Belichick, will do better the second time around. It's a passing league and the Giants are going to be transitioning soon to a young QB, so hiring the best available offensive assistant as head coach will be essential. Gettleman doesn't have any ties to McDaniels, but they have Super Bowl rings and can learn to work together. Belichick still is very fond of the Giants despite losing to them twice in the Super Bowl and would likely endorse McDaniels taking the job. David Zalabowski of 3. Convince Eli to stay if Davis Webb gets meaningful snaps in December games, and his play convinces the Giants not to draft a quarterback with what is now the second pick in April. He won't be ready to start until 2019. If the Giants draft Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold, I remember Accorsi telling Tom Coughlin in 2004 not to even play Manning at all. He believed rookie QBs should sit. Manning will be 37 next month. He loves the Giants and found out in the last week how much Giants fans love him back. Kerry Collins refused to be Manning's babysitter in 2004 and was cut. The Giants then signed former Super Bowl MVP Kurt Warner, who embraced the opportunity to restore his market value after the Rams released him. He was benched by Coughlin after a 54 start. The issue is whether Manning will want to stay here and mentor Webb or Darnold Rosen and be Derek Jeter playing his entire career here, or perhaps go to Jacksonville or Denver and be the unquestioned starter for a couple of years. Ultimately, it will depend on the vibe he gets from the new regime. 4. Hope Sam Darnold tries an ELIELWAY power play right now. The draft order is Browns, Giants, 49ers. After trading away the draft slots the last 2 years that enabled the Eagles to draft Carson Wentz and the Texans to draft Deshaun Watson, the winless Browns are going to have to draft a QB. DeShone Kizer is not the answer. Darnold has until the January 18th deadline to declare for the 18 draft. My sources believe he's a better prospect than Josh Rosen. He has a better NFL body and Rosen is injured often. Rosen is more accurate. They each have strong arms. Any QB would rather come to the Giants than the Browns. If the Browns want Darnold over Rosen, they can hope he will threaten the Browns that he will sit out the year rather than play for Cleveland. The Giants can throw in a second-round pick to flip spots. The Browns can't take a chance drafting Darnold and endure all the bad publicity if he refuses to play for them. 5. Sign Odell Beckham long-term for now, enforce the $8.4 million fifth-year option, but rip it up once he shows in minicamp that he is recovered from his broken ankle. Then just pray he grows up. McDaniels didn't back down when Brady was screaming at him Sunday. That's the kind of attitude the Giants are going to need from their new coach to deal with OBJ. When he's healthy, Beckham can't be covered. Joe Robbins Getty Images 6. Sign Patriots LT Nate Sater re-swift by coming back with the same 5 starters from a bad offensive line. That by itself was a fireable offense. He didn't pursue Cincy veteran left tackle Andrew Whitworth, who solidified the Rams line. The Giants are expected to have about $30 million in cap space going into free agency. That gives them the room to entice Sater to join McDaniels. Belichick's replaceable parts approach will prevent him from engaging in a bidding war. 7. Shuffle the offensive line. I would move Eric Flowers to right tackle, resign Justin Pugh and keep him at left guard, draft Ohio State guard center Billy Price at the top of the second round, right around the same spot they drafted Chris Snee in 2004, and resign GC Brett Jones. Sauter will anchor the line at left tackle. 8. If Webb is the guy, draft Saquon Barkley now that it appears Manning will start Sunday at Dallas. Interim coach Steve Spagnuolo needs to get Webb on the field. Forget about Geno Smith. Everybody has seen enough. Can you imagine if Webb lights it up the last couple weeks, allowing the Giants to draft Barkley, the Penn State running back? The NFL has devalued backs in this pass-happy era, but Zeke Elliott and Le'Veon Bell are the definition of impact players. Abby Drayton's 9. Release WR Brandon Marshall. He is due to make $5 million in 2018. He's not a $5 million player anymore. Back in March, I suggested the Giants sign him soon after the Jets cut him. But when the season started, he looked slow and old and disinterested almost from the first snap in Dallas, even though Beckham didn't play in the game. 10. Lower ticket prices by 4%. Consider it a holiday gift to Big Blue Nation. After the Giants made the playoffs in 2017, they raised ticket prices by an average of 4%. As a sign of good faith after what may only be a 2-win season, /4% off the 2018 invoices.